Wardrobe malfunctions happen to everyone, even superheroes. Sometimes things don't add up, so pay close attention, folks. Psylocke is known for her impossibly tight and rather revealing costume. It's actually kind of crazy that X-Men Apocalypse actually found a way to make her outfit even more revealing, but that's not even the craziest thing about the suit that Olivia Munn had to wear in the film. It was apparently just as tight as its comic book counterpart, if not tighter, which means she needed some help to get it. Specifically, she said in an interview that it required 2 women and a lot of lube. And before you get all worried about that, it wasn't that naughty. After having both the costume and herself lubed up, Munn had to push herself into it with the help of those women in a strenuous process. To make matters worse, the first time Munn appeared on set, she accidentally broke the latex, popping out the crotch, which happened multiple times. In a world where 3 seasons of Marvel's Daredevil exist and the character will be getting his own Disney Plus series in the MCU, it would be easy to forget about the 2003 Daredevil movie. Starring Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner as the Man Without Fear and Elektra, respectively, the film was created in the wake of Blade and X-Men, revealing that superhero movies were big bucks. Speaking in a new interview with Glamour magazine, Garner reflected on her time filming the movie, in particular how limiting her costumes were while filming. She said, "I had to be cut out of and sewn into the pleather pants every time I had to pee, and that was like a 45-minute undertaking, so I definitely held it." She said that she hasn't rewatched the movie in a long time, and she had so many chicken cutlet fake pieces in her to make Elektra's curves. She says, I think there were 3 on each side of different sizes, and everything was pushed up and out. I was just this close to a wardrobe malfunction at all times. There's not enough tape in the world to make this stuff safe. When it comes to playing a superhero, the clothes really make the man, and the stars of the Avengers had to wear some of the most elaborate costumes ever made. Scarlett Johansson said her Black Widow costume was like a wetsuit, and the heat became so bad she hallucinated while filming a fight scene on a makeshift roof. She said, "It was so hot I would wring out my socks at the end of the day." She said the demands of her stunts shredded her costumes, and they had to be replaced every couple of days. She said they're like tires. You would just go through sets of them. Every time you get a new costume, you just feel really nice, and then 3 days later, it's the discount widow. To throw it back, The Amazing Spider-Man had a whole slew of continuity errors and gaffes. At around an hour and a half into the movie, when Lizard finds Spider-Man in the sewer on his web trying to get pictures of Lizard, Lizard scratches Peter from the top of his chest down. Well, in the next scene where Peter shows up at Gwen's window, his cuts go from the top of his left shoulder diagonally down to the right side. And around an hour and 12 minutes in, when Peter leaves Gwen's apartment by jumping off the balcony, you can see he forgot his backpack. But in the next scene, he's got it. Also, his hair length changes throughout the entire movie. So for example, it's very long and not stuck up at dinner with Gwen's family, but then right after, it is shorter and super spiked in the rooftop kiss scene. Jennifer Lawrence suffered for her art while filming X-Men's prequel, X-Men First Class, as she sat in the makeup chair for up to 8 hours a day, being covered in paint to play the blue-skinned shapeshifter Mystique. A specialist doctor was actually called to the set to tend to the actress when her skin broke out in rashes and boils, which is why Mystique's crazy body paint turned into more of a crazy bodysuit after that first attempt. Turns out a lot of medical experts were actually concerned with the body paint's health effects. Why? Well, because it's jam-packed with chemicals. Turns out any body paint can cause an allergic reaction if an actor's immune system has become sensitive to a particular ingredient. This is according to a Dr. Elizabeth Tansey, assistant clinical professor of the Department of Dermatology at George Washington University. She said this in an interview to The Hollywood Reporter. The longer the exposure, the higher the risk of sensitization to the ingredients in the body paint. Turns out an allergy can develop even as soon as it's applied. To give you an idea of just how involved J-Law's body paint was, she had to stand still for 7 hours of application every single time they were shooting a scene. But it wasn't the process that alarmed Jennifer. She was like, "I loved working with Brian, I love these movies, but the paint. I can't even pronounce this and that's going in my nose. I'm breathing that." Turns out body paint used for on-camera purposes is designed to not only retain its look on the skin over many hours, but to withstand light, heat, cold, and sweat. And according to a set medic for film and television, Evan Liss, this can prohibit the skin from being able to function properly. If your skin can't breathe and sweat, it can't cool off properly. Turns out body paints aren't really water-based, and it can irritate the skin and the senses. To fully enjoy a superhero story like the MCU's first Captain America movie, you gotta be willing to suspend some disbelief. But since the film is largely set in the 1940s, it's only fair to call out a pretty egregious costuming error. Jim Morita, a member of the titular Captain's Howling Commandos, played by Kenneth Choi, is shown wearing a prominent military earpiece. If you're not familiar with military technology, this might not seem like a big deal, but the kind of gear that he's wearing wouldn't have existed until the 2000s. Maybe he knew about time travel before any of the Avengers did? Oh, also, when Captain America's ice-encased shield is revealed in the beginning of the movie, it's pristine, no damage. But in the final fight with Red Skull, the shield is super dinged up, lots of little marks in the paint. The infamous Incredible Hulk movie is known for a lot, but turns out it wasn't without its own glitches in the matrix of costuming. Emil Blonsky is supposedly a British officer detached to the US Army. Turns out foreign officers on detached duty to the American Armed Forces don't wear American uniforms. But Blonsky did. I found out that only duly enlisted or commissioned members of the armed forces who have taken an oath of allegiance to the US are allowed to wear said uniform. Oh, and the Polar F5 heart rate monitor watch that was used by Bruce Banner requires a wireless chest sensor in order to monitor a heart rate. There are several scenes where the chest sensor is clearly not present, but the watch shows his current heart rate. And if I'm being nitpicky, about 13 minutes in, Lieutenant General Ross wears his shoulder boards, so his rank insignia, on his shirt, and his epaulets are backwards. Oh, almost forgot. Allegedly the facial hair on Blonsky and Ross violates real military regulations. The 2011 Thor movie goes to show that even gods have the occasional costuming flub. When you get to about an hour in, Thor is soaked and covered with mud when he drops down in front of the hammer in the shield enclosure. But when he is led away by the guards, all you see is a very clean man in a clean navy blue top. Oh, and in the post-credits scene, when Selvig meets Nick Fury, his patched eye didn't have 3-line scratches. You know, the ones from the Flurkin that happened during Captain Marvel? You'd think for an ensemble movie like Guardians that there'd be a lot of costuming issues, but there was actually only a few. So Nova Prime's hairstyle changes a lot between shots, and about 20 minutes in, when Quill follows Gamora and her would-be killers in the prison, Rocket wakes up, with fur on his right cheek matted from how he was sleeping. But in the next frame, he's perfectly groomed. Oh, and Gamora's eyelids are like smeared green or not green at all in a lot of scenes, revealing that her skin color is just body makeup. And finally for today, we have the movie that kicked off the MCU as we know it. Iron Man. Just 8 minutes into the movie, when Tony Stark is being interviewed by Christine Everhart, his goatee is small, thin, pointed. His mustache looks pretty drawn on. But the next morning, after seducing her, his goatee and mustache have grown. They're like round and full. And that's not natural. Oh, and this next big goof happens often. So when Pepper places the Mark II reactor in Tony's chest, she turns it clockwise to lock it into place. And when it's removed later, it's again rotated clockwise to unlock it, showing that that's the only way the mechanism worked in real life. Oh, and the biggest thing I noticed throughout the movie is just how much Pepper's bangs vary in length. At the party, her bangs are short, fall just above her eyes. But during the fight sequence, while Pepper is with the government agents, her bangs are super short and barely able to be pushed behind her ears. But then the following day, when she's helping Tony prepare for the press conference, her hair is longer, as if she never had bangs in the first place. Oh, and near the end of the movie, when Stain removes the power cell from Tony's chest, his shirt keeps changing between having a hole cut out around the power cell to no hole, and then the power cell is just shining through the fabric. Also near the end, Pepper removes Tony's handkerchief, fixes it, and puts it in his breast pocket. But then when Tony appears for the press conference, no handkerchief. What up? Well, let us know in the comments which of these you caught, and if you caught my little game. See you next time, folks.